Today, a look at a viral misinformation incident that fooled thousands on social media, TikTok's aggressive content moderation efforts in Kenya, South Africa's newly released King 5 corporate governance code, and an interview on an unusual topic. Hello everyone, this is Priviso Live. I'm Lynn, and joining me today are my co-hosts Stephen and John. We've got a packed show for you today.
That's right, Lynn.
4 very different stories, but they're all connected by a common thread: accountability. Whether it's holding social media platforms accountable for what appears on their networks, holding ourselves accountable for what we share, or holding corporations accountable through governance frameworks.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. Stephen, you've been following the Mamdani headquarters story. What happened there?
This is a perfect case study of how quickly misinformation spreads in our hyper-connected world. On November 4, 2025, Zoran Mamdani made history by becoming New York City's newly elected mayor, the youngest ever at 34 years old, and the city's first Muslim mayor.
Quite an achievement and worthy of a podcast in its own right, 24 years after 9/11. But something overshadowed his victory speech, didn't it?
Absolutely. During his election night watch party at the Brooklyn Paramount Theater, social media erupted with claims that a screen at his headquarters had been hacked with a pro-Trump message reading "Trump is your president," styled like the New York Knicks logo.
I saw those posts. They went viral immediately. Instagram, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, TikTok. The videos were everywhere. What made people so convinced it was a hack?
Well, the timing was provocative. Trump had been openly critical of Mamdani during the campaign and threatening to cut federal funding if he won. So when this message appeared on the screen during Mamdani's victory celebration, it seemed like a coordinated political stunt.
And the conspiracy theorist Dom Luca posted it with the caption, "Breaking. Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani's headquarters screen was just hacked." That post alone probably reached millions.
It did. Other accounts like End Wokeness and various media outlets picked it up. Even the Jerusalem Post ran with the story initially. But here's the thing, it wasn't a hack at all.
So what actually happened?
Snopes investigated and discovered the truth was far less dramatic. The screen at Mamdani's headquarters was simply showing live election coverage from Spectrum News NY1. During that broadcast, the news team was discussing reactions to Mamdani's victory, including Trump's response.
And as part of that discussion, they showed a since-deleted post from the official White House X account that featured that exact image. "Trump is your president" in the Knicks logo style.
Exactly. If you look carefully at the viral footage, you can actually see the Spectrum News logo in the corner. A Spectrum News spokesperson confirmed to Snopes that their coverage was being shown on the event screen, and the Trump message appeared as part of their news reporting, not as a hack.
So essentially, people saw a screen showing a news broadcast about a controversial White House tweet and assumed the screen itself had been compromised.
That's precisely it. The White House had posted the image, the news covered it, and the news was being shown at the event. 3 degrees of separation, but people jumped to the most sensational conclusion.
What's interesting to me is how this reflects our current media literacy crisis. People see something that confirms their existing narratives, whether that's Trump supporters are trolling progressives or there's widespread political hacking, and they don't pause to verify.
And the algorithms reward speed over accuracy. The person who posts first gets the engagement, not the person who checks the facts.
Absolutely. And this story demonstrates something crucial about the current information ecosystem. The hack narrative spread for nearly 2 days before fact-checkers like Snopes and Gizmodo could debunk it. By that time, the damage was done. Millions had seen and believed the false story.
Did the White House ever explain why they posted that image in the first place, or why they deleted it?
As of the latest reports, they haven't provided clarity. Snopes asked, but received no response. That's part of what made the conspiracy theory so sticky. There was genuine ambiguity around the White House's intentions. So the lesson here isn't just about fake news, It's about how real events can be misinterpreted when viewed through the lens of social media and confirmation bias.
Exactly. The screen wasn't hacked. But in a way, our collective ability to think critically about what we see online has been compromised. That's the real hack.
And it raises important questions about platform responsibility, which actually segues perfectly into our next story about TikTok in Kenya.
Perfect transition, John. But before we get there, I just want to emphasize, this Mamdani story shows us that in 2025, we can't just consume content passively. We need to be active, critical thinkers. Look for the source, check multiple outlets, and remember that the most shocking explanation isn't always the correct one.
Well said. And speaking of shocking figures, wait until you hear what TikTok has been removing in Kenya.
All right, so while we're talking about platform accountability, TikTok just released their Q2 2025 Community Guidelines Enforcement Report, and the numbers from Kenya are staggering.
Tell us.
Nearly 600,000 videos removed in just 3 months, April through June 2025. That's 592,037 videos to be exact, deleted from TikTok's platform in Kenya alone.
That's almost 7,000 videos per day. What were these videos?
Content that violated TikTok's community guidelines. But here's what makes this story significant. This isn't just about TikTok being proactive. This is about a government essentially forcing a platform's hand.
So there was regulatory pressure.
Massive pressure. In March 2025, the Communications Authority of Kenya issued 5 formal demands to TikTok after a BBC investigation exposed something deeply disturbing. The platform was allegedly failing to prevent minors from being exploited in sexualized live streams.
Not great. What specifically did the CA demand?
5 things. First, actively pull down all sexual content involving minors. Second, launch a formal inquiry into the allegations. Third, explain how such offensive content bypassed their moderation systems in the first place. Fourth, intensify public education on child online protection. And fifth, implement better safeguards going forward.
And these Q2 numbers suggest TikTok took those demands seriously.
The figures clearly indicate increased enforcement. What's notable? TikTok states that 92.9% of those 592,000 videos were removed before they were viewed. Additionally, 96.3% were removed within 24 hours of posting.
That implies heavy automation. AI-driven content moderation?
Exactly. Globally, TikTok removed over 189 million videos in the same quarter, and 163.9 million of those were automatically removed by AI systems. So Kenya's enforcement appears to be part of a global ramp-up of automated moderation.
But here's my question, and it's a big one. Is removing content after it's posted really a form of prevention? I mean, if 7% of those harmful videos were viewed before removal, we're still talking about tens of thousands of views of potentially exploitative content.
That's the trillion-dollar question for every platform. TikTok would argue that 93% proactive removal is industry-leading. Critics would say that when we're talking about child safety, even 7% is unacceptable.
And there's the question of false positives. With that much automated moderation, how many legitimate videos are being caught in the net?
We don't know because TikTok does not specify the violations in their Kenya data. Globally, they removed 77 million fake accounts and 26 million accounts suspected of being under 13. However, we do not know how many of Kenya's 600,000 deleted videos related to child safety compared to other violations such as hate speech or misinformation.
This really highlights the complexity of content moderation at scale. You need speed, hence AI, but you also need accuracy and context, which AI still struggles with.
And there's the cultural context issue. An AI trained primarily on Western content might misinterpret cultural expressions or language nuances from Kenya or other African countries.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the broader question of governance. Who decides what content is harmful? The platform, the government, and how do we balance safety with freedom of expression?
Those are questions that don't have easy answers. But what's clear is that Kenya's regulatory approach, making specific public demands with concrete deadlines, seems to have prompted real action from TikTok.
It did. And it's worth noting that this approach could become a model for other countries. We've seen regulatory pressure work in the EU with the Digital Services Act, and now Kenya is showing that African regulators can also hold big tech accountable.
Though we should mention, TikTok's global reach means that enforcement actions in one country can have ripple effects elsewhere. If they tighten moderation algorithms in Kenya, those same algorithms might affect users in South Africa, Nigeria, or anywhere else.
Which brings us full circle to accountability and governance. And speaking of governance, John, I believe you've been looking into South Africa's brand new King 5 code.
I have indeed. Let's talk about corporate governance.
So John, for our listeners who might not be familiar, what exactly is the King Code?
The King Code is South Africa's corporate governance framework, essentially a set of principles and practices that guide how organizations should be led and managed. It's named after Professor Mervyn King, and it's become internationally recognized as one of the most progressive governance frameworks in the world.
And we're on version 5 now.
That's right. King 5 was officially released on October 31, 2025 by the Institute of Directors in South Africa. It replaces King 4, which had been in place since 2016.
9 years between versions. What prompted the update?
The world has changed significantly since 2016. Consider everything we've encountered: the COVID-19 pandemic, the AI revolution, geopolitical conflicts, the growing emphasis on environmental, social, and governance issues, and major regulatory shifts worldwide.
So King 5 is essentially adapting the governance framework to 2025's reality.
Exactly. The King Committee had 3 main goals: align the code with current regulatory and governance developments, simplify and clarify its structure, and standardize disclosure for better transparency and consistency.
Let's talk about that simplification. How did they streamline it?
They consolidated the 17 principles from King 4 into 13 in King 5. Actually, 12 principles for most organizations, because Principle 17 from King 4, which specifically addressed institutional investors, has been removed entirely.
Why was that principle dropped?
It created confusion in practice. King 4 tried to link corporate governance with the Code for Responsible Investment in South Africa, called CRISA. But having it as a principle in King made its applicability unclear. So King 5 removed it and now simply recommends that institutional investors apply both King 5 and the updated CRISA, 2 principles separately.
Better to have clear, separate frameworks than to muddy the waters?
Several key areas stand out. First, there's a major emphasis on technology governance, particularly artificial intelligence.
That's timely, given how rapidly AI is being deployed across organizations.
Very timely. Second, there's a strengthened focus on sustainability and ESG, meaning organizations must disclose both how environmental and social issues affect their finances and also how their operations impact society and the environment.
That's a significant shift from just thinking about shareholder value.
Exactly. King 5 embraces what's called the Ubuntu philosophy, I am because we are. It's a stakeholder-inclusive approach that recognizes businesses operate within a broader social and environmental context.
What about the actual structure of the code? You mentioned it's been deconstructed.
Yes, this is a user experience improvement. King 4 was one large report. King 5 has been split into 4 standalone documents: the King 5 code itself, a glossary, foundational concepts, and a disclosure framework. Each is directly accessible from a single web page.
And that disclosure framework is mandatory?
Yes. They must use the standardized disclosure template, state which practices they're not adopting and why, and provide a concluding statement on whether they're achieving the governance outcomes.
That's interesting. So it's moving from just explaining what you do to actually demonstrating results.
Precisely. It's outcomes-based governance. And here's something important. While King 5 is voluntary for most organizations, portions of it are mandatory for JSE-listed companies because the Johannesburg Stock Exchange has incorporated certain King practices into its listing requirements.
When does this take effect?
For financial years starting January 1st, 2026. But early adoption is encouraged, so organizations have a couple of months to prepare.
Thanks, John. And now for something new. We promised in a previous episode that we would be speaking to a South African security professional. This is something we would like to do more of going forward. In today's episode, we're speaking to Paul Armer, the CIO at ArmerTech. Welcome, Paul.
For the listeners, as this interview was done online, we apologize for any technical issues that may arise. In fact, this is the first time we have done this, so it's a learning exercise for us.
One that we intend to pursue, though.
John, you suggested we do this chat.
It's a roundabout story, as these often are. I was introduced to Paul via a friend, and I hadn't heard of the work that he is doing, and I thought it warranted a bit of exposure.
It's not something I had really thought about either, until you discussed it with us. What's the background?
Well, we all worry about Dropbox or similar solutions as part of shadow IT and compromising corporate data. But these platforms equally place the user at risk.
You have examples, John?
Well, to quote from Dropbox's own guide, cloud-based attacks now account for over 45% of data breaches worldwide, and they would know. In 2011, a Dropbox authentication bug allowed accounts to be accessed for approximately 4 hours with any password once the username or email was known. In mid-2012, an employee's reused password from another service was used to access a Dropbox employee account. The credentials set for approximately 68 million user accounts later surfaced. Amazon reported numerous leaks on its S3 platform between 2017 and 2024. In 2021, a Microsoft Cosmos database vulnerability exposed customer databases. In 2020, a Google Cloud third-party breach exposed customer data in a misconfigured bucket. In 2019, Capital One, hosted on AWS, was exploited by an insider, with 100 million records being exposed. In 2019, Adobe Creative Cloud exposed 7.5 million accounts from an unsecured Elasticsearch server. Should I go on?
No, I think that's quite enough. We get the picture, thank you.
So if you're placing your trust that the cloud service will protect your confidentiality, you could be sadly disappointed.
And the classic example is Panama Papers. If you cast your mind back to the data breach of that law firm and the exposures of all the legal documentation that happened, which led to the downfall of politicians and business people and all sorts, and eventually that global law firm was closed down because of it.
I remember the Panama Papers well, although the media were more interested in the salacious financial details of the wealthy than the security implications.
So your point of departure was to create a platform where the user confidentiality could not be compromised, even if an attacker gained access to the content. Vendors may not like this model.
There is definitely a fundamental tension between user privacy and vendor interest. The concern is that if we, the people, just sit back and do nothing to protect our data integrity, safety, it will get worse. From scammers, extortionists, authority intrusion, and control. How do you guys feel about the move to digital ID link every aspect of our lives and the absolute control that would give governments over our existence and even our very life?
For
Not
sure.
great, actually.
It's a rhetorical question. We've become totally dependent on devices and services in the digital age. Users need to put the house key back in their own pocket.
I like that analogy.
And due to lack of education, they don't even know that they actually can. Lack of education is not a mistake. It is a purposeful inaction taken by those who would lose most. It's like lying by omission. That does not mean we have to give up basic human rights, like a right to privacy.
But you tried to get significant vendor interest in this 10 years ago, right?
When I presented it 10 years ago, 8 years ago, because we've been trying to present the concept, 99% of people didn't understand what I was talking about. And they did not see value in what I was trying to do back then. Who on earth wants to give up all of their marketing opportunities, etc., when they have access to so much personal data, email address, mobile number, gender, age, location, all of this gets saved. All of it is marketing stuff and selling stuff.
Sure.
So, yeah, not interested for that reason. And they didn't see a need for the user to be able to encrypt their own files and to own and control. They didn't see a need for it. Okay, so be it. Things, concepts, points of view have changed now, 10 years on.
So you're getting more of a take-up from business?
No, not this, because I've just completed this new way of doing it using the NFC chip because that technology has now been made available to us.
If I recall, you used to use an 88-character hash as an encryption key, which I thought was quite ingenious, to encrypt the content and make it unavailable to anyone but the user, including you. How does the new technique work?
So the way of generating the 88 random characters is now changed. So on the website of ArmerTech.net, you've got a button there that says generate a strong random 88 character passcode. Now it is the equivalent of a hash value. The same thing, it's cryptographically strong, which means that we retain that one chance in over trillion of a clash between the two. So no two will ever be the same, except maybe once in a trillion years. Not a trillion years, in a trillion occurrences.
Okay.
Carry on, Paul.
Back then, and as it is now, until these quantum computers come into existence, which will take another 50 years, the assessment is that it will take over 1,000 centuries for the world's fastest supercomputer to actually crack that passcode, the 88 characters.
Well, we've debated how long it will take for quantum computing to emerge on this show, but that's a separate issue. Carry on.
We generate that on the website. Now you've got a mobile device with a NFC chip. You enable it, you make sure that it's switched on, and then you need to give permission to the browser to use the chip.
By you mean you use a normal smartphone, right?
Yes, normal smartphone, a smart device, absolutely. And when that we then there's a button will appear to say save to NFC card. Click the button, an alert will come up to say present your NFC card. Place it on the scanner, usually at the back of the phone or the mobile device. And there, it's written. Your now 88 extremely strong character passcode is on that little white card or little round blue fob. And in it goes to your purse or your wallet and it deserves to live there because it is actually as good as gold. And that's it. You've written the thing. No special programming, no special apps that are needed, nothing. This is all done in browser.
So now I want to encrypt a file.
We need to log in. So as we've just written the card, we now go to the button that says scan NFC card to enter. Click that, an alert come up will say, please present your card.
Okay, what happens then? Take me through the process.
Hold it over the NFC chip scanner at the back of the mobile device. It reads it, enters the passcode, splits it into the first 44 character goes to the server because that's your identifier. It is retained in the browser. I'm waiting for you to choose a file to encrypt and upload. At this stage, and at any stage, there is no requirement to register on this website. I want to know nothing about the user. All I want is the first 44 characters as the identifier, because on the back end, the identifier is saved, and any and every file that that user then uploads is linked to the identifier. That's all I need to do. So now the entry page opens. It'll give you at the top a little a block about your account status. It will reflect your 44 character identification identifier. Under that, it'll tell you how many files you've stored and until when your payment is valid. Down a few lines, for a first-time user, there'll be a block there that says no files stored. Now's your chance to upload your first file. Go to the typical HTML browse button, click it, browse your device, choose your file, give it a description if you would like to. So here, business, for instance, legal profession, they could enter a client code because they all run their files on client codes as well as names. But they could enter in the description their own identifier if they wanted. And you click upload. Boom.
This is unique to ArmerTech, the ability to store content in the cloud, which cannot even be accessed by the service provider.
More importantly, the service provider doesn't even know who the user is. No personal details are provided at any time.
Only on ArmerTech. The other cloud storage don't want to do this. They don't want the user to encrypt and to have no identification, personal identification.
And that's your value proposition. Totally secure encrypted storage that only the user can access, and without even providing your contact details to the supplier.
Correct. We are selling encrypted storage. There are many others who are doing it, but not like us, because the others, big names that are doing it, require you to register first. Email address, password, mobile number for use of 2FA, two-factor authentication. So they've got that. And they'll have your location. And some of them will want to know your age. Yeah, and your gender. ArmerTech doesn't need any of that. All I need is the first 44 characters to identify you and to link your saved files. That's it.
You keep half of the key, and the user keeps half of the key, each half of 44 characters, and so you can never access their information.
But my differentiation is I don't want to know anything about the user. I only want to know the first 44 characters. I don't want to know that second 44 characters. That's their key. That's their encryption key, and that's their strength. That's what gives them total control and ownership of the file.
What's your commercial model? I mean, people are going to pay you, but if you're getting none of the information, how do you manage to ensure you don't have issues with debtors?
Pay your amount to cover the files that you've uploaded for the next year. If you don't pay that on time, then basically you can't download the file, which is encrypted. You can't download it to your device and decrypt it on device. because I won't let you, because you're taking advantage of me. So pay now, and now you will be able to download the files. So as long as a user, remember, the account status comes up, top left-hand corner, a little block that says you have saved 25 files. Your next payment date is the 16th of December. And if that comes and goes, I'm not a nanny. These are adult people we're dealing with. They must know that by the 16th, they must pay. And if they do log in, they can log in. They'll see their list of files, but they won't be able to click it to download it until the payment has been made.
How do you handle sharing? I mean, with Dropbox, you can give a link and anybody can access a file.
No, why on earth would I want to do that? Because I've just broken what I've promised our offering is. I've just broken it, allowing sharing, because a link has to be sent to somebody else. But the somebody else, do they have the NFC smart card? The user could have sent it to them or give it to them to have a look. Then that's the user's decision. I don't want to manage that. But to do it automatically, the other guy he has to have that. So he will never be able to log in that identifier using that identifier. He can try all sorts of other things, but it will never take him to that particular user's list of stored encrypted files. So sharing is out the question.
It's beyond your capabilities to decrypt and expose the user.
Correct. I don't know anything about the user. I can give them an identifier, first 44 characters, that says nothing. I don't store the location, the IP address. I don't scan that. All these other sites do it and save it. Now that leads directly back to the user, that is encrypting files on the browser and uploading it. So email address leads directly back. IP address leads directly back. The user is exposed.
No doubt of that. Are there regulatory or market forces that could shift this balance, or is this primarily a matter of vendor choice and user awareness?
Vendor choice and user awareness are serious issues. These days, it just seems easier to accept the world as it is and justify non-action by having the feeling of hopelessness in the face of a tidal wave. People are far too concerned with spending time online with their buddies on Facebook, opposed to self-education about what is possible to protect themselves. Regulatory laws are certainly helping to give some protection, but nowhere is there a legal requirement to allow a user to own and control their own encryption key. That hasn't been written into any of these regulatory laws anywhere in the world.
If someone listening is intrigued by the approach, what would be their first step to implement or adopt what you're describing?
Well, to do real zero knowledge implementation of encrypted file storage. There's not many people around who know how to start and to go about it. I'm one of them. So basically, they need to navigate to ArmerTech.net, ArmerTech.net, and down there is my email address. They need to email me.
Paul, thank you for taking the time to discuss an issue I don't think we've considered before on the show. So let's tie these stories together. Lynn, what's your main takeaway?
I think the common thread is the tension between speed and responsibility. The Mamdani story shows how fast misinformation spreads when we don't pause to verify. The TikTok story shows the challenge of moderating content at speed while protecting vulnerable users. King V represents an attempt to create systematic, thoughtful governance even as business moves faster than ever. And Paul highlighted the need for personal responsibility to protect our confidentiality.
And technology is both the problem and the solution. AI spreads misinformation, but it also helps moderate content. Digital platforms create new vulnerabilities, but digital governance frameworks help address them. The question is whether we can build the systems and cultures needed to use these tools responsibly.
That's the challenge for 2025 and beyond. And it's why conversations like this matter. We all have a role to play as content consumers, as platform users, as employees or leaders of organizations.
Absolutely. So to our listeners, think critically about what you see online, support platforms that take safety seriously, and if you're in a position of leadership, take governance frameworks like King V seriously. These aren't just bureaucratic exercises, they're roadmaps for building sustainable, ethical organizations.
And that's a wrap for Priviso Live episode 60. Thank you for joining us. You are the reason that we do this. After all, if the interview with Paul interested you, and you would like us to interview anyone else, give us the details and we'll reach out.
If you want to hear more of the same, subscribe to Priviso Live on Apple, Samsung, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or YouTube.
And if you need security, risk, or ICT legislation advice, contact Priviso Consulting directly at admin@priviso.co.za. Stay safe, everyone.